increasing defence spending by £24.1 billion over the next 4 years. That's 16.5 billion more than our manifesto commitment, exceeding our NATO pledge, and investing £190 billion over the next 4 years. More than any other European country and more than any other NATO ally except the United States.
Hello friends, and welcome to Mandatory Redistribution Party. I'm Sean Morley.
And my name is Jack Lewis Evans.
Today's episode is about war, blimps, and Clifford the big red dog.
Do you remember?
Do I remember Clifford?
The war. The war.
Jack, I've never been in a war. Were we in a war? Was Clifford in a war?
No, we weren't in a war, but we have to remember the war and respect the fallen by wearing our poppy to support the current or future wars. Don't disrespect the troops, please, Sean, on this podcast.
Jack, I'm not sure I'm understanding. I don't like war. I like Clifford, the big red dog. Can we wear a little red dog instead?
No, you will wear a poppy. And if you pretend to mishear poppy as puppy, Jack, you saying wear a puppy, I will get really angry.
And if you at home want to support your brave old boys, you can do so by supporting and remembering us on patreon.com/mandatory redistribution party.
And instead of observing the minute's silence, you can actually use that time to tell your friends loudly and proudly about this wonderful podcast. Happy Warmas. If you're cold, they're cold. Bring your wars inside. A war
we gotta go.
Isn't just for Remembrance Day, it's for life. Now remember to watch the Queen's speech and be and be tolerant of your dad's day drinking today.
Jack, we've got to get out of here.
It is Warmas.
Jack, we seriously got to go now.
I'm dreaming of a white phosphorus.
I actually had this big argument with people recently when I was saying that Halloween, while commercialised, is not as commercialised as most other holidays.
What? Halloween? What?
Yeah, I know, and that's just I'm getting grief everywhere.
On what metric? Christmas?
Okay. Well, obviously, if you compare to Christmas, it's dwarfed, but it can't even compete with Father's Day and Mother's Day.
It can. When's the last time you saw fucking Father's Day and Mother's Day movies? Is there a Steam Mother's Day sale?
I think that I'm not surprised if there was an itch.io Mother's Day sale.
Yeah.
I think the reasons these generate more money is because they are fundamentally about gift buying, whereas Halloween is about decorations buying, and I don't think there's as much markup.
Costume?
I think a lot of people DIY their costumes, though.
Sweets. I went ham on sweets so my house won't get wrecked by the little lads.
But every other big holiday comes with sweets as well, so you got sweets on top.
Sweets are the main thing, whereas actually they're a sideshow on other stuff.
Yeah. When in the other stuff, you're buying so much, you forget that you're also buying sweets.
You know what? You've won. I'm in now.
Because it's not fundamentally about buying something for other people. Yeah. It doesn't upscale as much, right? That you keep getting people to buy more and more.
Yeah.
And I think one holiday that needs to start becoming more commercialised and bringing in the big bucks is Remembrance Sunday.
More commercialised?
Every holiday needs to make more profit year after year.
Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, because
what makes more money than war?
But you're not selling war to the consumers, are you? That's the problem.
You don't need to. More... Just take it in tax.
I want B2C war sales.
What percentage of tax goes to war? Enrage the MMT people who are like, actually, your tax doesn't pay for. But hypothetically, if we imagine that the simplistic and economically flawed notion that income tax directly pays for government spending, like how much of it do we think goes to war?
Doesn't like a good chunk go to a bomb we'll never use?
Yeah.
Like, isn't a lot of it's just been like, because that's part of war, isn't it? Just having a massive bomb.
Consider that just making the bomb is its use. Like, that is its purpose.
Just making the bomb is a war.
That's just like war's like a side effect of the military-industrial complex that happens sometimes. That they need to keep the military-industrial complex going. Remembrance Sunday, you're right, is not as consumer-focused. But I think once you bring war into the equation... Like, imagine if there was
a profitable holiday all year round.
Imagine if there was a Christmas tax that you had to pay every fucking month.
Yeah.
Out of your PAYE, bang, straight to Christmas, straight to Halloween.
Imagine there was like a massive Father Christmas on a submarine and everyone debates whether or not we should keep paying for its upkeep because one day that Father Christmas might wake up and it will destroy a continent. We shouldn't keep paying this guy mince pies. We need to just stop having it. Let's reduce tuition fees and not have the Father Christmas. No, we need the Father Christmas. We need the Father Christmas.
I think there should be like a Remembrance Sunday Father Christmas, like a God of War, like Kratos from those video games, or like the Grim Reaper. And he also comes down the chimney, and he takes your firstborn.
Now that you're bringing like cool figureheads into it, like this is the information I don't want to get out.
Oh, right.
Is that if ever a major country got a gun down,
major country,
one of the big hitters of being a state,
yeah.
If ever they got a gun down, popular pacifism would fizzle out straight away.
What? Because they would want to fight the Gundam.
They would want to see the Gundam doing things. And therefore they would have to accept war.
But you wouldn't want to fight the Gundam.
No, but I'd want to see it do things.
Yeah. I would be more of a pacifist if I knew there was a danger of me fighting a Gundam.
I think it would create more of a danger of my own government getting a Gundam. You're not going to get a Gundam now.
Yeah. The fucking British Gundam. It would be Union Jack with like poppies. I love a poppy on like military equipment. Like I love a poppy on a jet that is a means of death. Like remember that we will always remember them and we will continue to kill in their honor.
I also like poppies that are on like machinery that's not like militarized, but it's not like, like part of the design. It's not part of the paint job. They've had to affix something onto it that extrudes from the metal so it better resembles a human wearing a poppy as like a voluntary conscious choice.
I want to commend you right now, Sean, on the poppy you're wearing. But Sean right now has painted his nude body green. And his head is the core of a poppy. His head would be the opiate. Like if I was in pain in a medieval setting, it is Sean's head I would desire. And
my head is, of course, wreathed by red petals.
Yeah.
But they're also dripping blood to symbolise, of course, the many lives lost in World War One.
He's written on his chest in blood, lest we forget.
So, I mean, I really wanted to win our just interpersonal poppy competition, but now I see that you're wearing a gigantic poppy about the size of a dustbin lid, and it just depicts Sonic the Hedgehog crying.
And he's also wearing a poppy.
Yeah, he's also wearing a poppy, and he's in the trenches, and he's got gout.
I'm surprised you could tell it was Sonic the Hedgehog, actually, because of the gas mask.
Because of the gas mask, and because of the scarring bullet wounds and clearly trauma-addled face.
Yeah, it's why actually Sonic hangs out with Tails, because Tails' ability to fly using said tails is a means to push mustard gas away from Sonic in the trenches.
Yeah. Any organic or gas weapons come through, Tails will remove them. Of course, when Tails actually goes above the trench line, he is, of course, an open target for any sniper fire.
It's orange as well. It's really easy to see.
Against almost any natural backdrop.
Yeah. Knuckles the Echidna, who's the sort of third primary Sonic character that has, again, titular knuckles that are like spikes. Mm-hmm. So there's genuine World War I weaponry, which is a punch gauntlet.
A World War I gauntlet for punching?
Specifically a punch gauntlet, Sean, which is a metal gauntlet with a spike on it. It's related to the trench spike. You familiar with the trench spike?
Not really.
Okay, so the trench spike. So you're familiar with going over the top, right? You've all seen that Blackadder episode your history teacher put on because they wanted to have a rest. You go over, and if you don't get shot, can happen.
What, you're going to punch them?
Well, this is it. You're on the other side. What kind of gun you got? if you're lucky, maybe you got a pistol, but not necessarily. A lot of brawling goes on in the trenches. People forget about the brawling. Everyone knows about the mud and the going over the top, and then the other guys have got machine guns and the gas. A lot of brawling in World War One. You're in the trenches, you got to brawl, and people would get knuckle dusters so they could psh, right? Right. Then the army started issuing like a pimped out knuckle duster, which is a knuckle duster. I'm holding my fist up to Sean as if to show him an imaginary knuckle duster. Like a knuckle duster with a spike, a huge spike like that. That doesn't work on a podcast.
Oh, okay. So that's like the length of a forearm. Okay.
Yeah. A large spike. So you can punch in the head to disorientate. And while your opponent is bamboozled by this attack, you spike down into their brain because it was designed to go through a helmet.
Oh, so the spike goes down from the fist?
Yeah, spike goes down. It's like a knife, but it's a spike because a knife couldn't... like a knife, if you tried to knife on a helmet, the knife would slide off. But a spike, I don't have to explain a spike. A spike, again, a feature of the Sonic games, which is very dangerous. You know how dangerous a spike is to Sonic?
One hit kill, yeah.
Yeah. All your rings fall out. A lot of World War I soldiers burst in rings.
Yeah. It's a bad night when you're hearing the noise of rings scattering, echoing across the trenches.
Yeah.
I only need one ring back. I only need one ring back. I could take another hit.
Yeah.
That's just one ring.
Oh, God. That'd be hot. That'd be fucked up.
The idea of braining someone with your fist, that has done me in.
Well, yeah, so there's the trench spike. So that is knuckle duster with a big spike on it. But then the upgrade deluxe is the trench gauntlet / punch gauntlet. A spike on a glove, on a metal glove. And that's not for going down, that's for going forward into their face.
I think the trenches should have been safe. I think if you reach the size, you're allowed to defect. That's how I would have done it. Danger, safe.
Like
that's how you design it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I assumed that when I was a child, that like by the nature
I'm German now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm on this team. Yeah, that's why they end up playing football.
We'll be fighting. Oh, it's my old friends. Let's get them.
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah. Do you remember when we picked teams at the start?
Gotta go fast.
Yeah. Trench spike. Mate, I can talk about World War I weapons for days. The flechette, are you familiar with this?
Okay, the flechette is...
Oh, he's got the flechette.
It's a kind of knife attachment on something.
Oh,
is it?
You're very close. Imagine it's a knife. It's kind of detached to nothing until it's attached to your head.
Oh, okay. So... it's a projectile knife. It's a throwing knife. It's a hidden knife.
You're very...
It's like one of Spider-Man's webs, but it comes out and it's a knife.
Okay, so the flechette is, you wouldn't know the flechette was coming until it was too late, right? Mm-hmm. So what the flechette is you fly a craft over the battlefield.
A craft?
Various airborne craft.
Okay, right? Some sort of gliding chassis.
Yeah, simple, low-flying aircraft, right?
Uh-huh.
And you haven't got... you don't drop bombs, okay? Mm-hmm. What you drop... and these fall silently from the sky, is a flechette, which is a large spike.
It's just spikes again.
It's like a dart. It's a really big dart, right? About the size of your forearm, okay? And they would fly over the trenches and just drop flechettes, and they would fly down from the sky and just smash into your body.
So they could like ping you.
I'm not making
ping you to stuff.
Flechette, yeah, it's fucked up.
So they're just like big, heavy metal spikes with enough weight to just go through whatever it lands on.
World War I is fucked. It's like the first modern war, but they're using Napoleonic tactics. On the one hand, they're using Napoleonic tactics, but on the other hand, they're just making anything up. They had So they used little catapults in the trenches to fire grenades.
Okay.
Yes,
because you don't want a trebuchet because that will send it miles, right? Yeah, so you just want a little one.
A catapult, yeah. Like a sort of 4 or 5 foot catapult. But then the French invented the grenade crossbow.
Okay. So you still have to pull does the crossbow also pull the ring off, or do you have to pull the ring off and then shoot?
I don't know the specifics of the World War I grenade. I just know the means by which they were hurled at the enemy.
It's all about just getting bad stuff to go in that little divot. And actually...
Yeah,
putting more energy into that than... That's what I was going to say. There's more energy put into getting bad stuff into that divot than protecting your divot, which is pretty open. but then so's theirs because you've got completely symmetrical tactics.
Oh no, you protect the divot.
With little wooden fortifications and stuff, but they weren't like heavily fortified. Were they?
Periscope gun.
Stuff.
Do you know about that? Which I think is genius.
It's a gun, and you just put the gun up on a stick and just shoot it without endangering yourself.
That's exactly what it is. They didn't have loads of them, but at some point, someone went, well, hold on. When we go over, if we put our head over the top, we get sniped. Mm-hmm. Tails is he's been chasing one ring for ages.
Tails is dead, yeah.
He's not dead. He's got one ring.
One ring it just keeps trying to land on each time.
What his deaths have taught us is stay down. So here's an idea. We put the gun, we find a way to fire the gun, because we want that. We want to get them over the top. We want to fire the gun, but we don't want our head with our brain in it over the top. That is how we die. So obviously option one of this is helmet. You think, the bullet will hit the helmet and then I'll be all right. No, the helmets were bad. So upgrade, don't put your head over at all. Periscope gun.
You're telling me when the bullet hit the helmet, it wouldn't just spin round comically incredibly fast?
No.
Why didn't they? Everyone's so obsessed with this over the top.
Yeah.
I've read going on a bear hunt.
Yeah.
They could have just gone under.
Yes,
Couldn't they tunnel under? Did they do that?
Yeah, they tunnel. And that's, again, you'd tunnel. And it was easier to carry, obviously, small arms, but small pistols much more expensive than a trench spike. So your rifle, you're not taking that through a tunnel, but trench spike.
You're just climbing through a tunnel
and
in the middle of Belgium.
Yeah.
With massive spikes on your hands. Mm-hmm. Like a mole.
Yeah.
Wow. It feels like almost anything that I could sit here and think, why didn't they do this? Someone did. Everyone's just doing whatever they could think
war. So I think once a war...
Avant-garde war tactics.
Once a war is at that scale, and it's just an absolute meat grinder, I think it comes to a point, like a year in, where any suggestion goes.
Everything's worth a shot.
There's like different kinds of poppies.
There's like 2 or 3 that I know of.
Which ones do you know?
Well, I know the red one and the white one, and then wasn't there like...
So red is classic. Let's go for them. Red is classic, which is remember those who died in World War I. And then at some point, remember those who died in all wars got added so they could use it to just launder
They could use it in an era without educating people about World War I.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's happened fairly recently because I vaguely remember stuff in primary school being primarily about World War I, and something flipped where it was just like, it was probably the Iraq War, wasn't it? And then you got your white poppy, which is the peace one. That's really old. That's 1920s. They wanted to replace...
Is that old?
Yeah, because I think the poppies say lest we forgetting them now, but they used to say like the Hague Fund or whatever because it was
right.
But and someone proposed it should say like never again or end all war or peace or something in the poppy, and the poppy people were like, no, well actually maybe you do need a war, so no. And then so you got the white poppy spin off, and then you got the black poppy, which is the poppy for people who resisted the war, so people who mutinied or went to prison for refusing to fight in the war. Legends.
So what if you wear the black poppy sympathetically with the resistors of the war?
Yes, people who mutinied and people who didn't go to war.
Where can you get those?
Quakers. They sell them. I think like anarchist bookshops is going to be like your number one place to get them, I think. Purple poppy. You know about this?
I've come across one, but I can't remember what it means.
It's for the animal victims of war. It's for you to wear. So you pin your animal victims of war poppy to your lapel as you sit down at your all-you-can-eat carvery, and you think about the cute horses and puppies that died in the war.
You think about the bomb dogs.
Chow down. Yeah. Bomb dogs is World War II. Mercy, they did. That's one of the ones they didn't think of. Mercy dogs they had. You know about
that? No.
Mercy dog is when you are dying and they just leave a dog with you.
Just to be your friend?
Yeah, but the dog's like pretty much a write-off as well.
Why is the dog a write-off? Because it's
fucking World War One. This is why there's a purple poppy for them, because people were treating animals like absolute shit.
Did they bring out? Were dogs brought out to the front lines just for that job?
I've read that somewhere. I don't think it's like standard issue. Like, here's your dog. When you die, that's going to stay with you.
No, it's like, here, we've got 10 dogs. The first 10 of you to die get a dog.
It's a concept.
We'll try and retrieve the dog each time, but that number of dogs will dwindle. So if you're desperate to die you are going to die. So if you're desperate to die with a dog, don't be careful.
I'm familiar with the concept of the mercy dog. Yeah, get your death in quick if you want the dog.
Yeah.
If you want
There's got to be an incentive for a quick death. Normally that's really bad.
I think the mercy dog, it must have just been a regular dog, because they had dogs to like kill rats and stuff in the trenches.
Okay.
And just as like a, little mate. Like the trenches are rough. You got a dog. It's an upgrade, right? Immediately.
It's better, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if I was dying in a trench, I would actually quite like the dog. I'm not knocking it on that basis.
Yeah, 100%. Mercy dog or no mercy dog? Obviously mercy dog. But I don't want to...
If I could pick between mercy dog or a person who could talk to me or a priest with last rites, I want the dog.
The mercy dog, yeah, upgrade. Yeah. I would like to go to a church and confess my sins to a dog.
What, like a Catholic church and then do actual confessional in the booth?
Yes.
And you'd say, it's been this long since my last confession. The dog would go, woof.
No, they wouldn't woof. They would do, when dogs go...
That makes the dog sound disappointed in you, which would make me less likely to confess.
Well,
no. A good confessional dog doesn't appear judgmental. It's supposed to be a safe space. It should whine sympathetically.
Listen.
Pained by the empathy of your guilt. But you have to feed it 10 treats and say 1 Hail Mary and you can go back to war.
Yeah, I'd go mercy, but I wouldn't. I'll tell you what would put a down on the mercy dog. If you knew the mercy dog was going to die with you, I'd be like, go away, go and befriend the Germans. They'll look after you.
Oh, what? Like you're breaking the dog's heart because the dog wants to stay with you and you die, and you're like, no, I've only met you a few seconds ago.
Yeah, but I love you.
Go and live. Go and defect. Go be a German dog.
Defect.
Go enjoy the Rhineland.
Just for a bit, though. Not actually. That's not going to be Germany.
Just for a bit. Enjoy it for 5 years. Yeah. 5 years. Go back to Belgium.
They also used animals to, obviously they had like canaries and stuff for the gas. But I feel like there's not like in a mine where the canary can be pretty useful. I think if the mustard gas, you're like, oh, canary's gone. I think once the canary's gone, if it's mustard gas, you're also fucked.
Well, because it's mustard gas, right? Because it only takes a little bit to gone anything.
It's fucked mustard gas.
Yeah.
Mustard gas is so fucked that modern arms companies aren't selling that shit.
And that's bad.
That's bad. That means it's really bad.
Really
or
bad.
At least not profitable.
Oh, you think it was just really expensive to make and we can make stuff cheaper now?
Yeah, maybe.
It's like, it's like when they like different things with like, oh, you can't really call that butter because it's not got the right ingredients in. This is actually a cheaper thing. It's not technically butter. So we can't technically call it mustard gas because of the Food Standards Agency.
They'll just be using something more like differently fucked that makes more money or is more important somewhere else in the chain, like depleted uranium gas. Fucked up.
Oh, and it killed a lot of people, World War One, right?
World War One, huge death count.
I heard... you can tell me if this is true. At the end of like the 19th century, like America, the New World, just like was economically, it was Wild West, right?
Yeah.
And then because a lot of Europe just basically killed an entire generation of men, it completely stalled basic technological, cultural, and economic development for so long that America's like, hey, we're a whole new superpower here because we didn't kill all of our men.
The key thing you're going to need to do if you're going to do hardcore military industrial complex is make sure that no bombs land on you. Sell them to others. So America did that twice, World War One and World War Two.
They got to observe and sell.
Yeah. Whereas the stuff, if it's landing on you as well, it's gone wrong. You're not doing military industrial complex.
It ain't worth it. It ain't worth the ka-ching if you're also getting kaboom.
Yeah. Remember.
Put that on a poppy.
A lot of people have been emailing me saying, Jack, I don't remember World War One. Nigel, a 27-year-old tugboat operator from Plymouth, said,
I know there's a World War II, so there must have been a World War One. If not, that's mad. That's a mad thing to call a war.
Maria, a 32-year-old fraudulent chiropractor from Stockport, says,
I keep seeing lest we forget, and I'm thinking, if I forgot, I wouldn't know I've forgot. Like, what have I forgotten? Bing is telling me World War One and giving me your email address. Please assist.
I am happy to confirm to both of you that there absolutely was a World War One. At the time, there's not many people calling it World War One. You know, people who did were real pessimistic. Like, you don't want to be hanging out with them in the trenches. They're going to bring down the mood. People did call it the war to end war, which was maybe too far in the optimistic direction. Some people called it the Great War, which it was not. It was bad. From July 1914 to November 1918, capitalism and imperialism dragged humanity into an abyss of industrialised carnage. Estimates put the death toll of the war, never mind the flu pandemic that hit the world in 1918, at over 20 million people. The war turned the landscape of Europe into a wasteland covered in barbed wire and mud, wet with rain and blood. The brutality of imperialism had come home. It was a war between competing empires that had spent years building up their war machines and doing brinksmanship, which is the national equivalent of lads outside a pub going,
Come on then, what are you going to do, mate? Come on then, I'm a black belt.
Except instead of them each wielding an empty glass of Carling, they've got a fleet of dreadnoughts. World War I has a weird place in popular culture, especially compared to the higher budget, more mainstream sequel. It's partly because it was longer ago, but it's also partly because it's trickier to frame the UK as the good guys without Hitler. Like, every time Britain and America have gone to war since 1945, they've compared their enemy to Hitler. You know, no one was saying Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi were Kaiser Wilhelm. What gets taught in UK school history about the First World War, what appears on TV, kind of says a lot, partly by what it misses out. Like, we do learn that the European powers had empires and they saw each other as a threat as they competed for territory. However, the explanation you get is kind of all about the empire's perceptions of each other, rather than the pillaging, the brutality they're enacting on the conquered, and the armies they're building up to do so. It's as if we empathise with the empires, right? Not their victims in any way. The reason you'll get for Russia joining the war won't be that the Tsar thought he could use patriotism and conscription to suppress the rising threat of revolution or try to get access to the Mediterranean for trade. It'll be because they had an alliance with Serbia that they had to honour. The reason you'll get for Germany declaring war won't be that they had less colonial territory than the other European powers and their ruling class saw an opportunity to alter the balance. It'll be because they had an alliance with Austria-Hungary. The reason you'll get for Britain joining won't be its desire to keep its place as the most powerful empire on earth, subjugating and exploiting millions of people. It's because they had an alliance with Belgium. Honourable gentlemen had given their word to these alliances, and an archduke getting popped just meant they were tragically forced to kick the working class into a meat grinder.
I don't want to boot you into the grinder. I do so with a tear in my eye.
By focusing on the causes and the course of the war in school history, making your little papier-mâché trench, doing a map of Franz Ferdinand's route before he got popped, we don't really talk about the end of the war. Bizarrely, the extent of what we do learn about the end of the war fits pretty well with what the aforementioned Hitler might emphasise: the cruelty of the Treaty of Versailles. Like, yeah, the Treaty of Versailles confiscated 10% of Germany's territory and limited its military, but even with that, Germany was the largest, richest nation in Central Europe, and the reparations are linked to its ability to pay. It was mostly unenforced. The fact that they weren't allowed a military meant that the state would invest money in other, more productive stuff that wasn't to do with killing. Compare the Treaty of Versailles with, say, the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, which the Germans had imposed on the new Bolshevik Soviet government in Russia in 1918. As well as demanding 6 billion marks in reparations, they took 1 million square kilometres of land, which included 27% of the Soviets' arable land and 9,000 of roughly 16,000 factories. Like, compared to that, like, the idea that the Treaty of Versailles was so uniquely harsh isn't just bullshit, it's Nazi bullshit. But I don't just bring up the Soviets for that comparison. I bring it up because one of the key reasons World War I ended that we do not get taught was that there was a revolution in Germany in 1918. This was part of an international trend of resistance to the war. In February 1917, Soviets, soldiers, sailors and workers' councils formed across the Russian Empire and overthrew the Tsar. In April 1917, a revolt began in the French military involving 40,000 soldiers, deserting their posts and singing revolutionary songs. In October 1917, the Italian army also faced mass desertion, with soldiers chanting, "The war's over, up with Russia." No joke, there was a Soviet established in June 1917 in Leeds. But in Germany, even though they had been militarily decimated, the German fleet were ordered to sea against the British Navy. The Kaiser was sending these men to kill and die for his own ego and nothing else. But they said, you know what, fuck that. We're not going to listen to you. On the 29th of October 1918, the German sailors began to mutiny. They refused to obey orders and spread revolt across the fleet. Within days, the port city of Kiel was under the democratic control of a Sailors and Workers' Council. But next, there were massive demonstrations across Germany as town after town and city after city stopped recognising the government as they replaced it with their revolutionary councils. The anti-war communist Karl Liebknecht, whose dad, William, was drinking buddies with a man called Karl Marx, addressed a crowd outside Berlin Palace, declaring that Germany was now a socialist republic and would not be continuing the war. The war ended because the working class of Germany carried out an anti-war socialist revolution. But what happened after this was pretty bleak. Now, you probably know the longer term of what happened in Germany, but you also get the gist with what happened to Karl Liebknecht just a few months later. The German equivalent of the British Labour Party collaborated with a fascist militia to suppress communism in Germany and ended up getting Karl shot in the back. Key thing, World War I. Now you remember. Mate, I'd love a blimp. I'd love to see a blimp. I'd love to go on a blimp. A Zeppelin. Is there a difference between a blimp and a Zeppelin?
To be honest, I was going to, given that you've started the blimp discourse, I was going to ask these questions.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't care. You know what I mean. Big balloon, not a hot air balloon. I don't care about them. I don't, there's something about a hot air balloon which just doesn't do it for me. Whereas a blimp, I'm in.
Wasn't there a very famous American blimp disaster that really took the wind out of the sails of blimping globally?
The Hindenburg.
Isn't the balloon of a blimp full of flammable gas, but also the blimp requires...
No, I think they changed the blimp gas after that.
They should have changed the blimp gas before that. That's my 2 cents.
Isn't there a thing like we're running out of helium?
Oh, yeah, because scientists now can't get access to helium. Or is it the scientists are hogging the helium? Scientists are involved.
What gas in blimp? Helium.
That's top Googling.
Hold on. The usual gases for lifting airships are hydrogen and helium. Hydrogen is the lightest known gas and thus has great lifting capacity, but it is also highly flammable and has caused many fatal airship disasters. Many. Helium is not as buoyant, but is far safer than hydrogen because it does not burn. So hydrogen, I imagine, is what was in Hindenburg.
Yeah.
Helium is the thing that it's safer, but there is a shortage of.
I used to know why it was shortage. I'm not as good at Googling as you are. I don't know why it was shortage. What, you're going to come down all eat shoots and leaves on me? You understand what I'm asking here? Language evolves. I'm searching where has the helium gone.
Yeah, good. Google Pod. Me and Sean just sequentially search. We'll have one search each.
Do you know it's the second most common element in the universe?
Helium?
Yes, where's it all bloody gone? Helium's just non-renewable. We just find it. We can't make it. Sounds wrong, doesn't it?
We shouldn't be burning through that doing funny voices.
Yeah, why have I been inhaling helium to do a funny high voice? And someone going, that helium's never coming back.
Yeah, that's gone now.
You've just snuffed that out of the world.
Oh my God.
Well, hang on. What am I saying? That hasn't vanished out of the universe. It's in me? Or?
Well, no, it's not in you. It's in the atmosphere. You breathe it back out.
I'll breathe it back out.
But then you can't get it out of the atmosphere. That's the problem.
So one day there'll be a point where no one can do a silly high voice like that anymore.
Well, it's not just a silly voice. Like, what is helium used for?
Science. It's going to come back with science, I think.
Number 1, balloons.
I can live in a world with no balloons. Yeah. Just put air in the balloons. That doesn't matter. That's
no, it's rubbish. The mouth-inflated balloon will never compete with the helium balloon. And you can't mouth-inflate a blimp.
You can't kick around. You know when you play keepy uppies with a little balloon? You can't do it like a helium balloon. It just goes away.
Is there a Godzilla movie where he does keepy uppy with a blimp?
I don't think it'll be one of the main Godzilla movies. I feel like that must be some sort of spin-off.
Number 2, medical applications.
That's more important than balloons, I think.
Number 3, vehicles. Presumably blimps.
Yeah.
Helium is very unreactive. It's used to detect leaks in car air conditioning. Oh, who fucking cares? Barcode scanners. What?
We can't scan barcodes with no helium. One day we're going to run out of barcode scanners.
What the fuck? You know the laser in a checkout?
It's like a little gun. Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah. Do you know what is inside the gun? Do you know what's the ammo of the gun? I bet you can guess.
A helium, I think.
It's helium because it is a helium neon gas laser.
What?
What the fuck?
Helium neon?
Helium neon.
A gas laser?
Yeah, and they won't be able to scan anything. So if helium runs out, everything's free then.
No, if helium runs out, the checkout queue's going to be really long because people are going to be reading the fucking numbers off the top.
Free. Yeah, it won't do that. Just everything's free faster.
I don't know. I think it would be 9273, and that's just for one packet of crisps.
Do you remember QuickSave when everyone used to just remember everything because they didn't have them scanners, so you just had to memorise the price of everything in the shop. Till person.
Shops are getting too big now, though.
It's too much stuff.
Shops are getting too big, and they're too
populated. You're not using it.
It's
because you're not using it. Do you remember, people used to be able to know loads of telephone numbers.
It's true. My number retention and mental maths is just gone.
Yeah, because you don't need to use it.
So you think a maths teacher? Do you think they will do more towards public knowledge and use of maths by, instead of teaching maths, using up lots of helium?
Yes.
There you go. If you're listening. Got you a hobby.
You know what to do.
Yeah, silly voices all day.
Maths teacher.
Chug.
Attacking helium storage compounds.
Do you know that the Lib Dems killed a dog?
What? I know they killed so many squirrels.
Well, it's apparently not that... it's not that obscure a piece of information, so much so that David Cameron had to get someone to forcibly cut a joke about it from a speech he was going to make while he was Prime Minister. He was going to say, yeah, the Liberal Democrats, we remember them when they were killing dogs.
What the fuck?
And they're the only political party to have intentionally killed an animal during peacetime.
What? Sorry, the political... You're making it sound like the dog was executed ceremonially at the fucking Lib Dem conference or something.
I think it was shot with a gun.
What?
Because the leader of the Liberal Democrats had hired a hitman to kill... I think it was a German... No, it was...
Kennedy?
It was in
Who did this?
It was... Have you ever heard of the Thorpe affair?
No, like Thorpe Park?
It was more like Jeremy Thorpe, the leader of the Liberal Democrat Party in the 1970s.
Oh, they're 70s. Yeah, everyone's killing dogs in the 70s.
Were they hiring a hitman to kill a dog?
No, they were just fighting them.
They were just fighting them,
brawling.
Yeah.
That's where British Bulldogs came from.
It was off the back of a homosexuality scandal.
Okay,
back when that in itself constitutes that's a scandal on its own, isn't it?
Very the 70s.
And basically, a guy who claimed to have had an affair with the leader of the Liberal Democrat Party. It all went to trial when this guy also started claiming, after it all hit the tabloid press, that the leader of the Liberal Democrat Party had sent a hitman to make him go away.
What the fuck?
What I'm saying here is come out in the trial, and they were acquitted, but I also think that they did it.
Allegedly.
Who shot the dog.
Is this the person who allegedly?
He genuinely shot the dog, right? A dog was genuinely shot.
Yeah.
It's more of a question about whether he was paid to give him a scare or paid to actually try and kill Norman Joseph, otherwise known as Norman Scott. But then it turned out he had a big dog, so the hitman just drove him around for a while, got them to both get out of the car, shot the dog, and then said, "You're next."
How big a dog?
I think it was a German Shepherd. I think it was quite...
We're not talking Clifford.
The kind of dog... Oh, I mean, I think it would take more than a single bullet to... a single bullet would only enrage Clifford.
Yeah. Clifford could take down Kong.
Clifford could take down a tank, I'd say.
Yeah.
Not necessarily blow it up and destroy all the people in the tank, but could bend...
Stop it.
Could bend the arm and maybe, give some of the caterpillar tracks a good kick in.
Yeah. Trap the people inside.
Oh, definitely. They are.
Yeah.
They will die from starvation, if not from being crushed.
Yeah.
Do they making a Clifford film?
I hope the Clifford film is
what
just
we
starts
described.
off. Yeah, it's just the guy. It starts off after the incident, and they're inside the tank, and you don't know why they're inside the tank, and it's like the 127 Hours movie, but they're inside a tank trying to survive.
So you're saying that
context
Clifford is more of a background character?
Yeah, like that's how they're best. Like Godzilla's best used like that when like Shin Godzilla.
Yeah. Very
how
good
do
Godzilla film.
how do they deal with Clifford?
Just to jump to an even further topic.
Yeah.
Do you know the film 127 Hours? Right, the guy who got he got
There's a
stuck
real guy.
in a ravine. Yeah. And he had to chop off his arm to get out.
Penknife.
I used to work for a homeless charity. Won't name it, but a lot of it was to do with arts and social clubs and things to get people out doing stuff. Right, people a vulnerable group that have a big history of mental illness. And someone who was dealing with the film club was ill, and so I took over this film club and ran it in a bunch of different spots. And people who were in any way eligible, who were in some way homeless or vulnerably housed, all came to watch these films, and they were free, and we put on food. It was like a nice thing to do, a nice thing to run. But I didn't get to pick the film. They all came from like Love Film, and they were all, the person who picked them always picked like worthy films, like Oscar winners and stuff that was like important. And it always meant that the films were like really brutal and upsetting. Like 127 hours. Shit. It was like Dallas Buyers Club.
Fuck. Okay.
And it's like, oh my God, these guys don't necessarily want to like reckon with that. This is too grim. Yeah. And we watched 127 hours, and everyone was like, it's like, this is not a chill film.
Jesus Christ.
Get Spider-Man. Yeah. Get Spider-Man. Why are you sending me these things? Get Spider-Man.
Yeah. These people do not want to see the Clifford movie.
Oh, man. Not our Clifford movie.
Not our Clifford movie, no.
I love Clifford just only appears for the first... Because if Clifford existed in real life, instantly militarised.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah.
This would be like how Boris Johnson would make up for those water cannons he spent loads of money on that he never like got or used. Clifford just running rampant in all the areas of urban poverty in inner London.
Devouring cops.
Clifford would become instant like folklore.
Yeah.
Like it would just become a tale. Because it wouldn't be reported on. It would be too much of like a scandal to be reported on in the press. So it would just travel. It would just travel through like oral tradition.
Yeah. There's like TikToks of Clifford, but they're like really blurry. And everyone's like, that's CG. That's CG.
If I saw a TikTok with Clifford in it, I would say that's CG. When I saw the Clifford trailer, that's what I said out loud. I was tapping my partner constantly on the shoulder going, that's CG, and it's Clifford.
What the fuck were we talking about?
Yeah, so the Liberal Democrats killed a dog.
Allegedly. Mandatory Redistribution Party was created and produced by Sean Morley and Jack Lewis Evans. Our title theme was created by Ella G. Thank you so much for listening, and special thanks to those of you who share episodes on social media or support our work on Patreon. If you can afford to help us out, please check out patreon.com/Mandatory Redistribution Party, where we have numerous little bonus episodes which are too silly to expose to the world at large. This episode is dedicated to Captain Tom, who I am gutted I never got to prove I could be in a fight. Godspeed, Captain, and Godspeed to you, dear listener. Until next time.